You walk out onto your patio with your morning coffee, and there they are. A trail of ants marching in a perfect line across your concrete, disappearing into a crack by the foundation, reappearing 3 feet away near the base of your favorite rose bush. You step over them. You always step over them. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I should really deal with this before it gets worse. So you do what everybody does. You go to the store and you buy a spray. Bright orange can, skull and crossbones energy even if it doesn't actually have a skull on it, and the promise on the label sounds airtight. Kills on contact, kills for weeks. You bring it home, you spray the trail, you spray the crack in the concrete, and for about a day, victory. The ants are gone. Then they're back. Not weakened, not thinned out, back. Sometimes in greater numbers than before, because here's what nobody tells you when you buy that can. You didn't kill the colony. You killed the ants that happened to be walking across your driveway at 9 in the morning on a Tuesday. The queen, the nursery, the thousands of workers still underground. None of them even noticed you were there. I am going to show you something today that actually reaches the colony. Not the trail, not the visible ants wandering around your yard looking for crumbs. The colony itself, underground, including the queen. And the thing that does it isn't a spray. It's not a bait station. It's not anything you'll find in the pest control aisle. It's a white powder sitting in your pantry right now, probably next to your baking supplies, and it costs about $1. Cornstarch. I know it sounds like the kind of thing your aunt posts on Facebook next to a picture of a lemon and a spoonful of coconut oil that's supposedly going to cure everything. But stick with me, because unlike a lot of the stuff floating around online, this one actually has real mechanics behind it. And once you understand why it works, you'll understand exactly why the pest control industry has zero interest in you knowing about it. Let's talk about why the spray you bought fails in the first place. Because understanding the failure is the key to understanding the fix. Ant colonies are built for exactly this kind of attack. When you spray a trail of foraging ants, you're hitting maybe 1–2% of the total colony population. The rest are underground in a network of chambers that can run several feet deep and just as wide. There's a nursery chamber full of larvae, there's a food storage chamber, and somewhere in that maze, there's the queen, the only ant in the entire colony capable of laying eggs. Kill every worker you can see on the surface, and the queen just keeps producing more. A healthy queen can lay hundreds of eggs a day. You are not going to outspray that with a can from the hardware store. Baits are supposed to solve this problem by getting workers to carry poison back to the nest. Sometimes they do, but ants are surprisingly cautious about unfamiliar food sources. Many colonies send out scout workers to sample something new before committing the whole colony to it. If that scout dies too fast, or the food doesn't match what the colony is currently craving, protein 1 week, sugar the next, they simply avoid it. You end up with an untouched bait station sitting in your yard for a month. So the industry sells you a cycle, spray that only hits the surface, bait that the colony might reject. And when neither one actually finishes the job, the recommendation is always the same. Call a professional, sign up for quarterly service. Keep paying. A single visit from a pest control company for ants runs anywhere from $100 to $250. A quarterly plan can run $500 to $800 a year. For a problem that, once you understand the biology, can often be handled with something already sitting in your kitchen cabinet. Here's how cornstarch actually works, and this is the part that surprised me the first time I looked into it. Ants don't have a stomach the way we think of one. Adult ants can't actually digest solid food. Their mouthparts filter out solid particles, and only liquid can pass through to their digestive system. Solid particles get stored in an internal pouch called the infrabuccal pocket, essentially a filtering chamber that collects anything too big to process. Under normal conditions, ants periodically compact that debris into a little pellet and spit it back out. Cornstarch is a fine, starchy powder that ants will pick up along with food they're foraging, especially if you mix it with something sweet that draws them in. Once ingested in enough quantity, it clogs that filtering system. It doesn't dissolve the way sugar or protein does. It sits there, dense and starchy, and it interferes with the ant's ability to process anything else. Combined with moisture in their gut, cornstarch can also swell slightly, adding to the blockage. The result is a slow, mechanical disruption of digestion, not a chemical poisoning, a physical one. And this is the important part, because the workers that pick up the cornstarch mixture carry it back to the colony and feed it to other ants through trophylaxis, the same mouth-to-mouth food sharing you'd have learned about if you watched my diatomaceous Earth video a few weeks back. The blockage spreads through the colony the same way. Worker to worker, worker to larvae, and eventually, worker to queen. It's slower than a direct hit of poison. It can take 1 to 2 weeks to fully collapse a colony this way. But it reaches parts of the nest that a surface spray never will. Now, before you run to the pantry and dump cornstarch straight onto an anthill, I need to walk you through this properly, because doing it wrong just wastes a perfectly good ingredient and leaves you with the same ants you started with. The formula: mix equal parts cornstarch and powdered sugar, about 1/4 cup of each, with just enough water to form a thick, slightly runny paste, roughly 2 to 3 tablespoons. You want the consistency of pancake batter, not a dry powder and not a soup. The sugar is what pulls the ants in. On its own, cornstarch has almost no scent and no flavor that would draw foraging ants toward it. It needs to be disguised inside something they actually want. Some people prefer using honey instead of powdered sugar, and that works too, but honey can attract other insects and gets messy fast in warm weather. Powdered sugar dissolves cleanly into the paste and doesn't leave a sticky residue that draws bees or wasps into the mix. Once you've got your paste, spoon small dollops, about the size of a dime, directly onto the ant trail or right at the entrance of the visible mound. Don't drown the whole yard in it. You're creating bait stations, not a broadcast treatment. 3 to 5 small dollops along an active trail is usually enough for a typical colony. If you have multiple mounds, treat each one separately with its own small dollop. Here's the part that takes patience, and it's the same part that trips people up with every slow-acting method I've ever covered on this channel. Do not disturb the paste once it's down. Don't kick the mound. Don't spray anything else on top of it. Don't get impatient after day 2 and reach for the orange can because you don't see immediate results. The workers need to find the paste, carry it back, and spread it through the colony over the course of several days. Any disruption resets that process. You'll notice activity around the dollops within the first few hours. Workers investigating, some carrying bits of it away. That's exactly what you want to see. Over the next 3 to 5 days, you might actually notice increased ant activity near the treated spots. More workers, more traffic. That's not a bad sign. That's the colony recruiting more foragers to what they think is a great new food source. It means the message is getting back to the nest. Days 5 through 10 is when things start to shift. Foraging activity along the trail begins to slow. Fewer ants making the trip. This is the digestive disruption spreading through the colony and starting to affect enough workers that fewer are healthy enough to keep foraging. By day 10 to 14, Most home colonies treated this way show a dramatic drop in surface activity. Complete collapse can take a little longer for larger or more established colonies, but the trajectory is the same. Slow at first, then a sharp decline as the disruption reaches critical mass inside the nest. Let me be upfront about something, because I try to be honest with you on this channel, even when it means the answer isn't a slam dunk. Cornstarch is not going to outperform diatomaceous earth on speed. If you watched that video, you know diatomaceous earth can collapse a colony in 3 to 7 days through physical dehydration. Cornstarch works on a different mechanism and it's generally slower, sometimes taking closer to 2 weeks for full collapse. What cornstarch does have going for it is that it's already in your kitchen. It's essentially free if you bake at all, and for smaller trails and less established colonies, especially the ones just starting to scout your patio or garden beds, it works reliably well. Think of it as the right tool for catching a problem early, before it becomes a full-blown infestation that needs the heavier approach. A few warnings, because I want this to actually work for you. Warning 1. Keep the paste away from areas where pets might lick it up in large quantities. In small amounts, cornstarch and sugar aren't toxic to dogs or cats, but you don't want your dog treating your ant bait like a snack bowl. Place dollops in spots pets don't frequent, or supervise the first day or two until you're confident they're leaving it alone. Warning 2. Rain washes the paste away and resets your progress. Check the forecast before applying, and if it does rain, reapply once the ground dries. This isn't a one-and-done outdoor treatment the way a granular product might be. It needs a few dry days to do its job. Warning 3. This method works best on smaller to moderate ant populations, the kind you'll typically find with common black ants, pavement ants, and odorous house ants. If you're dealing with fire ants or a colony that's clearly massive, with multiple large mounds and heavy activity, cornstarch alone may not move fast enough, and fire ants in particular can be a genuine safety concern for kids and pets that shouldn't be left to a slow-acting kitchen remedy. In that case, pair it with the diatomaceous earth method from a few weeks back, or treat it as a first-line approach while you monitor whether it's making a dent. Warning 4. Don't mix cornstarch with any other ant treatment on the same trail at the same time. If you've already put down bait stations or sprayed insecticide nearby, the chemical residue can repel ants from the area entirely, and they'll simply reroute around your cornstarch dollops instead of finding them. Give the area a clean slate. Let me tell you what happened when I actually tried this on my own patio, because I wasn't fully convinced it would work until I tested it myself. I had a steady trail of small black ants running along the edge of my back patio, coming out from underneath a paver near the grill. Not a massive infestation, maybe 30 to 40 ants visible at any given time, moving in a fairly consistent line toward a hummingbird feeder that had been dripping sugar water onto the concrete. I mixed up the paste, a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, and about 2.5 tablespoons of water, stirred until it was smooth and thick. I placed 4 small dollops directly along the trail and 1 right at the crack where they were emerging from under the paver. Day 1, nothing dramatic. A handful of ants investigating the dollops within the first hour, a few carrying bits of it away. Day 3, I actually thought the treatment had backfired. Traffic on the trail had noticeably increased. More ants than I'd seen before, all funneling toward the paste. I almost gave up and grabbed the spray bottle, but I remembered that increased activity early on is actually the colony recruiting toward what it thinks is a jackpot food source. So I left it alone. Day 6, traffic started to thin. Fewer ants making the trip from the crack in the paver. The dollops themselves were mostly gone, carried off piece by piece. Day 9, the trail was almost empty. Maybe 2 or 3 ants wandering, no organized line anymore. Day 12, nothing. I checked the crack under the paver with a flashlight, and there was no visible activity at all. I left it a few more days just to be sure, and it stayed quiet. Total cost, and I actually measured this out. About 15 cents worth of cornstarch, and maybe another 20 cents of powdered sugar from ingredients I already had in the pantry. Call it 35 cents to clear a colony that had been showing up on my patio every single morning for about 3 weeks. Compare that to what a single pest control visit would have cost me in my area, somewhere around $150 for a targeted treatment. 35 cents versus $150 for the same outcome, just a little more patience required. Now let me answer a few things I know are coming in the comments, because I get these questions every time I put out a video like this. Does this work on fire ants? It can, but I want to be careful here. Fire ant colonies are larger, more aggressive, and frankly more dangerous to have around kids and pets while you wait 2 weeks for a slow-acting method to finish the job. If you've got fire ants, I'd lean toward diatomaceous earth first for speed and safety, and consider cornstarch as a supplementary approach rather than your primary tool. Does this hurt the grass or soil? No. Cornstarch and sugar are both organic, biodegradable, and break down naturally within days. There's no residue, no staining, nothing to worry about for your lawn. Will this attract other pests, like roaches or wasps? In small, targeted dollops, the risk is minimal. But if you're in an area with a heavy roach or wasp presence, keep an eye on it the first day. If you notice unwanted visitors, you can always switch to honey-free versions using just cornstarch mixed with a tiny bit of peanut butter instead, which tends to be less attractive to flying insects. How often do I need to reapply? For an active trail, 1 application is often enough if you're patient and let it run its full course. If you're dealing with recurring activity in the same spot season after season, a light monthly check during peak ant season, spring through late summer, keeps things from reestablishing. Here's the bigger picture, and it's the same thing I keep coming back to on this channel, video after video. The pest control industry has built an entire business model around convincing you that insect problems require synthetic chemicals, professional visits, and ongoing subscriptions. Sometimes that's genuinely true. Severe infestations, structural pest issues, things beyond what a homeowner should handle alone. But most of what shows up in a backyard, a trail of ants on the patio, a scattering of anthills across the lawn, these are simple problems that respond to simple, well-understood biology. You don't need a technician in a branded polo shirt spraying chemicals around your kid's swing set to handle a trail of ants heading toward your hummingbird feeder. You need a spoonful of cornstarch, a spoonful of powdered sugar, and about 2 weeks of patience. If this channel has taught you anything so far, it's that the fanciest, most expensive solution is rarely the most effective one. It's just the most profitable one for somebody else. Next week, I'm going to tackle something that drives just as many of you crazy in the comments section. Ants do, grubs chewing through your root system from underneath, and the $2 trick that handles them without a single drop of synthetic pesticide. If you've had brown, spongy patches that pull up like carpet, you already know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're going to want to see this one. Subscribe if you haven't already, because every video on this channel adds another piece to a complete system that costs less in a year than a single professional pest control visit. And drop a comment telling me where your ants are showing up. Patio, driveway, garden beds, right through the kitchen door. I read every single one, and it helps me figure out what to cover next. See you next week.